Hey guys, so this is going to be my Elantris review. You probably already saw that in the intro there. Um, I really enjoyed this book the first time I read it. It was my introduction to Sanderson when we found out um, that Sanderson was going to take over the Wheel of Time. Me and my mom were both pretty excited. We were ready for the end of the Wheel of Time and excited to have that moment. And my mom's like, well, the only book he's written so far was Elantris. And so she gave it to me and she said, I read it, I liked it. And so I said, okay, I'll check it out. And I enjoyed it. But that was, gosh, not long after it came out, I think. Um, and I haven't read it since. So I remember it being okay. And I thought, I like this author and I'm glad he's going to do the Wheel of Time. Yeah, so I was like, oh, I remember, yeah, like points were ticked off again as I went through it, and I remembered the things that I enjoyed the first time. So that was a lot of fun. I I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The way that I was able to get the audiobook for my library was graphic audio. Don't like graphic audio. It's not a good way to tell a story. It's a movie in your mind. Not a lot of fun. I don't recommend it to anyone unless you just have to listen to an audiobook to make your reading easier, like I did. It came in three parts, so that was three rentals with Hoopla, which basically made it where I can only rent one more thing from Hoopla this month. So definitely do not enjoy the graphic audio function of audiobooks. Now, I know it was back before he had the permission to use Michael Kramer and Kate Reading, and so the other version of the audiobook is not Michael Kramer, like you'll see in like Era 2, where Kate Reading's not in it, doesn't narrate it. But I enjoyed it quite a bit still. There were some interesting moments that graphic audio adds, like background noises and stuff like that. Sometimes it was very, very distracting. Sometimes it added a little bit of ambiance, especially when you were having like a moment where, I don't know, something big happened, I guess. Especially near the climactic end, it was kind of the dramatic music kind of ramped it up. You were getting ready. It encouraged excitement, I guess, is what it was trying to do. Some books that do it really, really well. The audiobook of Dune that has like a cast and some audio is fantastic. It sounds like you're in the desert. It's really good. This one, not so much. I found it very, very enjoyable. Gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, and I just remember feeling at home. As we learned about some characters, I went ahead and read Hope of Elantris after. It's super, super short. I think 35 pages is all it is. And so finished up Elantris, and then right after that did Hope of Elantris, and so then I completely have the Cosmere done. So I'm really, really excited about that. Going into characters, we've got Raoden, who is mostly our main character, but we also have Sereni, who is at the beginning of the story in the process of coming to town to marry him. And the way the marriage contract is set up, if anything happens to him, they're still married, and she has to live there as his widow. So Raoden, at the beginning of the story, gets what's called the Hoid. I'm probably not pronouncing it right. But he becomes a Elantrian. But there's things that go on with his transformation that he's basically dead. So they take him, everybody just basically writes him off as dead. They wrap him in a burial shroud, give him some food, and they put him into the city of Elantris. So he's now an Elantrian into the city of Elantris. You learn as you go that as he's hurt, his injuries never heal. He doesn't have a heartbeat. He's room temperature. A lot of stuff like that. And then all the people that live there, because their injuries never heal, once they get enough accumulated injuries, basically they turn into mindless creatures that are just in pain. Like if your leg's cut off, you're not going to die, but you're going to sit there with the pain of losing a leg at that same intensity for the rest of eternity because you can't die. A big problem that they have in the city is that they don't give them any food, but they're always hungry, and like it's not going to kill me of starvation, hunger, but just hunger And you see people make decisions that are based on that hunger, that are decisions they would never make in real life. People become. I need to turn that off. I'm getting. Sorry about that. And so you see brutal savagery in the city because of the hunger, because of the conditions that they're put in. Nobody cleans anymore. Like the city's run by 3 different gangs. So Raoden is thrown into this world of barbarianism, sort of, and immediately makes a friend. They kind of together, basically, he's like the wise wizard character that's not a wizard at all, just like Adula that he has fun with. And he gives him some food, and giving somebody a little bit of beef jerky can just make you lifelong friends. I really enjoyed Raoden's part of the story, and I really enjoyed Sereni's part of the story. And so the thing that kind of gets me is the fact that they just spend so much time not knowing who the other person is. Sereni thinks he's dead. He knows she's alive, but doesn't really know what's going on in the city because they're isolated and cut off by the giant Elantrian walls. And you come to this standpoint where you go, just tell her who you are, man, because he knows who he is, but because of the Hoid, he's has facial problems. He looks very different. None of his friends recognize him, anything like that. And so the magic system that the Elantrians had. Sorry, I'm probably going the long way to the entrance of the maze or something. I don't know how you would describe that. But the problem that they're having is the magic system is by drawing aeons. And by drawing these aeons, you basically create through language, which is kind of what you have with the Emperor's Soul, where they put things, they do a stamp. And that's a cool story that's also connected to this world. And it's neat to meet some of the Jindoese people that are the same people that are in that story. There's like one main character. Well, he's a side character in our story that gets some attention. And he's over there as like a minor noble because he was a merchant. And that's how their whole government system is set up. Horrible government system. If you have the most money, you have the most power. So the king who had the most money, who was Raoden's father, is king because he had the most money. And all the dukes, if they lose their money, they lose their nobility. And all this happened because Elantris fell 10 years ago when there was a earthquake. And I find myself going, he could have made this a little bit simpler, but then I look at how I try to tell a story, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Sanderson, he knows what he's doing. This was book 1. What he's done in between times has definitely made me appreciate this story more, especially if you get into Rhythm of War. A lot of the stuff that we deal with that is explained in Rhythm of War is fun to go back and look at and be like, oh, that's what this is. This is okay. And so I had a lot of fun with that. We don't spend a lot of time with the 2 shards that are on Elantris. That is stuff that's kind of explained in other places. I have a shards explanation video where I go into it a little bit more. From what I remember when I was doing the research for that video, those 2 shards are dead, but when they died, they created this mass of black something. It's like an electrical lightning storm in the cognitive realm where you can't get to Cell through the cognitive realm right now. But we do have Hoid in the story mentioned so briefly. So briefly you'll miss it if you blink. But if I remember correctly, another shard who was killing shards killed the 2 shards that lived on Cell, and they created this mass in the cognitive realm that makes it where you can no longer travel between worlds. And you have at one point, which I'm 90% sure is I can't remember what that's called, but there's a pool like you see in Mistborn and you see in Stormlight Archive in a certain part of the world. Perpendicularity, that's what it is. There is a perpendicularity pool that you find, which is a cool reference playback to Mistborn. It's a playback to Mistborn Secret History. A lot of Cosmere stuff when you actually get into it and you kind of dig into the depth of the Cosmere, it makes a lot of sense and stuff that is really, really interesting and fun to look at and figure out and what, all that's going on there. Mistborn Secret History explains exactly what the pool is. So once you've read all of Mistborn Era 1, yeah, you only need to read Mistborn Era 1 to read Mistborn Secret History. But when you read Mistborn Secret History, you know exactly what that pool is and what's going on there. But yeah, I'm all in the weeds here, I bet. This review probably makes no sense. So I didn't even start talking about Hrathen yet. Hrathen is a Darathi priest, and Hrathen, man, his storyline is like sometimes he approaches a situation very, very well, and then through not paying attention to his underlings, gets basically shoved out of the way, has to do some drastic stuff to get back on track. And then before he gets back on track, he realizes that one of his underlings is actually someone who's in charge of him and was, a spy. And spoil. I don't know. I'm probably spoiling all kinds of stuff. I don't know at this point anymore. But his redemption arc through what he does, understanding that he's serving God, not serving the Lord at the time over the Darathi religion. Basically, the Darathis have warrior monks and they do all kinds of stuff. The ending of the book, what he does, how he goes into the rest of the story. I loved it. I was just having such a good time with how he held to what his convictions were. The way he approached faith was different than you would normally see with somebody who is a very emotionally faith-driven person. He was a mentally faith-driven person, which is kind of where I fall in a lot of times. I have moments of large emotions when in my faith when I'm drawn to it, but I spend most of my time in study. I read and I'm looking through, and so I'm intellectually thinking about my faith, and that's really where Hrathen was. Like his intellectual knowledge of his faith and the things that he did. Hrathen knew he didn't have the zeal. He wasn't a zealot. He was intellectually faithful. He was a Gion of his religion. He wanted to convert the city to save their lives. He knew that if he didn't convert them, they were all going to die. And so he had the right motivations. He had the motives were right in his favor. And then when he felt like his religion was being perverted, he stood up for what he felt was right. So Hrathen was great. I thought he was awesome. A good fatherly figure and a poor fatherly figure. So you have Sereni's dad is a good fatherly figure, and then Raoden's father is a bad fatherly figure. So kind of showing the difference between a good father and a bad father. I like that. As a whole, I just really enjoyed the story. Really, really enjoyed the story. I think if he wrote it now, it'd be a 5-star for sure for me. It's just a little bit of the things that he probably could have cleaned up in his experience now. He didn't have the opportunity to do. And I'm gonna buy this. I got this one from the library. I'm gonna buy this 10,000 bonus words 10th anniversary edition. Probably not hardback. I'll probably get like a big floppy paperback. But it had some extra stuff in here that I think he kind of cleaned up some stuff that he wanted to clean up. And so I'm excited about this. So, and I really just enjoyed the book. I hope through my rambling here, I should have wrote down notes. I feel like I'm more structured when I write down notes, but there's definitely things that I forgot that I wanted to talk about, especially in the story, as the story was going. One of the things I'm enjoying about Kindle lately is I can highlight and write notes as I'm going, which I definitely can't do in a library book. And a lot of times I read on my lunch breaks. This was an audiobook for me, so what I do is I had it here. I'd come home, I'd move my bookmark, being like, okay, I'm on this page, I'm on this page, I'm on this page. But when I'm reading on Kindle, I can highlight stuff that makes sense to me, or what I want to deal with, or what I want to go over. And so I'm really coming to enjoy my Kindle a lot more because of that feature. All right. I can't really ramble anymore. I'm going to let you guys go. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I have a Twitter that I don't use very often. I love being on Discord. I talk all the time. You probably can see it on the corner of the screen here. Doing some read-alongs and some great stuff on that. And thank you guys. Enjoy reading the book, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.